Hi, this is Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com here at DevOps Enterprise Summit, and we're here with Daniel Bryant of Open Credo. Hi, Daniel. How are you today?
Very good, thanks, Alan. It's a pleasure to be here as well. It's been a great conference so far. Lots of learning.
Yes, it certainly has been. Daniel, Open Credo is a sponsor at DevOps Enterprise Summit, so you've been down in the exhibition floor.
Indeed.
And, we've been stuck up here most of the
Yeah,
last
fair
2 days. But give our audience a bit of a flavor. What are you guys seeing down on the exhibit floor?
Yeah, so it's been fascinating actually chatting to lots of different people in all sort of stages of their DevOps journey. Some are literally coming to us saying, what is DevOps, pretty much?
Really?
And others are really interested in things like sort of microservices in particular, containers. Kubernetes has got a lot of sort of interest. We're kind of known in the circuit for doing those things. So people are asking us a whole bunch of questions. I think in terms of, say, the diffusion of innovation, we're seeing people right from innovators through to like late majority, early majority now.
Really?
And they all come with different questions, which I find is quite challenging. So the innovators are very much like, what tech should I use? They tend to be smaller, less focused on the cultural aspects. Whereas we're chatting to, there's some great chats there, people that are more on the, say, early majority end of the spectrum. And they're like, I want to drive big change. And can I use tooling or techniques or processes to do that? And that's a case of, like, you certainly can, but it's going to require some more conversation. We've got to know the context.
Absolutely.
You know
And context is king when it comes to DevOps.
Big time.
Daniel, our audience may not be familiar with Open Credo. Would give our a little background.
Yeah, sure thing. So we've been going for about 7 years now. We're a consultancy nominally based in London, but we also work in Germany and the States as well. We're kind of known from the Spring Source days. We did a lot of work with Spring Source back in the day, and we've moved now more into containers and those kind of things in terms of leading edge tech. But in our journey over the 7 years, we've realized very much that to drive lasting and like truly valuable change, we need to attack the whole kind of value chain and also the organization. So when I say attack, I mean work very closely with clients. To drive lasting change, we're all about looking holistically at things, Alan. So I think finally we've come to that realization now. I'm glad. I've lots of talks today. There's a great talk by SAP talking about people. And at Open Credo, we really value that and realize that. As much as we are, like to see ourselves as leading experts in technologies, we fundamentally address people issues as well, because nearly all the problems we work with our clients with to fix are to some degree people problems, cultural problems, those kind of things, and they're harder to fix.
Yes, they are.
No doubt about it, yeah. But they're also a lot of fun, and when we see it clicking, and when we see our customers suddenly, you almost get that hockey stick of kind of adoption and like success. That is truly satisfying. So that's pretty much what
Fantastic.
we're about. Yeah.
Excellent. Now you mentioned. Well, you had a mouthful of stuff there, but let's try to separate out some of them. And, you're not the first fellow to sit in this chair today and talk about the importance of people in DevOps, right? And all too often, especially early, this is how I can tell someone who really doesn't buy into DevOps and is just mouthing off, is they'll say, yeah, culture schmulture. It's not. It's all about the tools, right? And it's not about the people. It's not about the culture. And people who would say such a thing, I don't think really get the DevOps story.
Or they're trying to sell you a tool. Yeah.
Or they're trying to sell you a tool. That's an excellent point too. And I think we can't emphasize enough how important the people and cultural aspect is.
Totally agree. So actually, I did a talk in QCon New York last week, actually, about it was the 7 more deadly sins of microservices. But as part of that talk, I talked about something called the spine model. Not mine. I can't remember the author's names now, but it came out of an Agile 2015 presentation. And the spine model is fundamentally tools at the bottom, all the way up to practices, principles, values, and needs. And for me, that's super important. Tools kind of are a result of practices. They're typically something to automate or to make more efficient a practice. But you have to drive up the stack in terms of, we see a lot, for example, of people cargo culting. So just arbitrarily copying, X used Jenkins, therefore I'm going to use Jenkins. X used Docker, I'm going to use Docker. But we try and help people really think about what's the value, what need are you addressing? And that all starts with people. Pretty much, because ultimately you're solving problems for customers. Somewhere along the line, there's people there. Even if you're B2B, there's people there. And obviously you're working with people. So things like empathy are super valuable skills, And that's why I'm the same. And whenever I hear people saying, tooling will fix all your problems, it may drive and be a catalyst to some degree, but it'll never really solve your problems, because your problems are further up, I think, the value chain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And Because if it really is that tooling is your problem, you've got some bigger issues you haven't even realized probably yet.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen organizations where tooling is actively hampering things.
Yes.
But you're right, it's always a symptom of something else.
Yeah.
Someone's,
bought the wrong tool, secondary, basically. Right? Not the core cause of it. Yeah. Well, Daniel, I want to thank you, first of all, for talking with our audience today. I want to thank you for sponsoring DevOps Enterprise Summit. And I also want to thank you because I know you're a DevOps.com reader.
Indeed, I am.
And we'd love to have you be a DevOps.com contributor.
Sounds
we
good,
can talk about that.
Totally.
But, and it's also always good to hear from people who are kind of actively involved in this.
We're very much in the trenches,
right?
Yeah,
in the trenches, because that's where you really find out.
I know we learned some hard lessons, but some valuable lessons.
Well, the most valuable lessons are always learned the hard way, unfortunately. Yeah. But anyway, continued success, Thanks, Daniel Bryant.
Really appreciate that.
Open Credo. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com. Thank you.